What do you think about as you fall asleep? Perhaps your mind goes through the homework that you've done, or the highlights throughout your day, or maybe you cry yourself to sleep, or even you don't sleep at all. Hey, there's no shame in that. For me, I usually contemplate life's biggest questions. Who am I? Will I ever step into the same river twice? The Roman Empire. And while this does promote thought and introspection, it's not exactly the most helpful thing when it's 11:30 at night and I have a Latin exam the next day. So, to silence my inner Plato, I would count sheep. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep. Wait, why is the plural of sheep not sheeps? How does language exist? Ah, gosh darn it, back to counting sheep. 4 sheep, 5 sheep, and as the white fluffy sheep jump over my head on a scenic farm, I would eventually stop thinking and fall asleep. But one day, I was hit with the ultimate question of all. Why does counting sheep even help me go to sleep? Well, at the time I thought maybe it was because the word sheep sounds similar to sleep. So by constantly repeating it, I'm essentially subconsciously convincing my body to fall asleep. But can we really achieve something like this simply through the power of subconscious suggestion? This plagued me for a long time. So instead of reviewing for Latin the next day, I did some research, a lot of research, and stumbled upon the fascinating world of placebos. So what are placebos? Placebos are any form of treatment that do not have a direct effect on the body themselves, but are delivered in a context that includes supportive social and physical cues. While this may sound very confusing, here's an example. Let's say you have a headache. Pretty common, particularly popular amongst us Latin students. And instead of taking the usual Tylenol for the headache, you're given a white sugar pill, which itself has no medicinal content. However, the pill looks exactly like Tylenol, from the capsule to the packaging, and you're given the pill in the health center, while you're sitting on a bed and talking to a medical professional who's wearing a lab coat and a stethoscope and taking you through the diagnosis process. And so under all these circumstances, you take the pill. Remember, you don't know that it's fake. And somehow, you end up feeling better as a result. Now, while this may sound like magic, it showcases how placebos work by utilizing the context of the treatment. So in the example, you have place cues like being in the health center, social cues like talking to a doctor, and treatment cues like taking the pill. And as you're exposed to the same cues every time you visit the doctor's office, and you feel better each time, you learn to trust the advice that doctors give. Soon, your body begins to associate this context and these cues with healing, so that expectations are created the next time you encounter a similar context. Then, even when you take the sugar pill, your body responds to these expectations, helping you feel better as a result. So therefore, you can change health-related outcomes in the brain and body simply through manipulating the context that's surrounding the treatment. A study that shows the expectation aspect of the placebo effect particularly well is a study from Japan, in which they took 13 students who were previously tested to be highly sensitive to wax tree leaves, meaning that their skins produced a reaction when in contact with the leaf. And they touched one of their arms with a normal leaf and the other with a wax tree leaf. But their goal was to see how the expectation of the students would influence their body's reaction. So they deceived the students, telling them that what was actually the wax tree leaf was the normal leaf, and giving them the normal leaf as the wax tree leaf. So the students' perception of what the leaves were was the opposite in reality. And the results were fascinating. The normal leaf caused a reaction in all 13 of the students, while the wax tree leaf only produced a reaction in 2 of the students, meaning that the other 11 students avoided a reaction altogether. So just from knowing what the leaves were, the students created expectations that they would have a reaction due to their experiences in the past, and their bodies responded as a result, and they actually had a reaction. This just goes to showcase how powerful our expectations can be. When the individual expects something to happen, many processes will go on in their brain and bodies to meet those expectations. Alright, so expectations and the placebo effect can explain why counting sheep was able to stop me from contemplating life and fall asleep. But placebos rely on deception. So didn't I just ruin mine? I was pretty devastated when I realized this. But when it came time to sleep again, I tried to count sheep, having just the slightest hope that it might work. And magically, it did. I woke up the next day confused. If counting sheep was a sort of placebo which utilized expectations, why did it still work even when I knew that it was one? This went against everything that I knew until I stumbled upon open-label placebos. Yes, placebos can work even when you know that they're placebos. Open-label placebos are when the patient is informed to be taking an inert medication in order to potentially help alleviate their symptoms. While the specific mechanisms of how open-label placebos can work remain to be researched, it might be helpful to imagine them like watching a horror movie. You go into a horror movie knowing that, well, it's a movie. So the contents, the plot, the characters, the jump scares are all made up and purely fictional. But even when we know a horror movie is fake, we're still scared by it, oftentimes after the movie finishes. Like watching The Shining, for example, made me refuse to walk in a hotel corridor for at least a month. Similarly, open-label placebos can help alleviate symptoms even when the patient knows that they aren't medicated. So let's say you have a headache again, over the very same Latin class, and you're exposed to the very same cues as in the previous example, like being in the health center, sitting on the bed, talking to a medical professional. Only this time, as you're given the pill, the doctors explicitly explain to you that it is not Tylenol. You're very skeptical. But then the doctors have explained to you how taking a placebo treatment can potentially help alleviate your symptoms. And you trust the doctor, so you take the treatment and end up feeling better as a result. Now this may work because of the association that our brains have created between the ritual of taking the pill and healing. If the mechanisms of how placebos can work are explained to the patient from a trusted source, then deception is not required for placebos to work, and expectations can still be created. There's also the factor of hope, that taking some form of treatment, even if it's just a placebo, is better than none at all, which invokes a reaction in the patient. And open-label placebos provide us with an interesting idea. What if we give ourselves that placebo? What if we utilize the aspects of the placebo effect and implement them into our own lives? Well, firstly, there's the association of cues. And this association is reinforced every time we repeat the act. So it is thus important to realize the associations that our brains create. For example, our comfortable beds. Now boarders, I'm not sure about you, but the chairs in our dorms definitely give us back pain. So, to alleviate myself from this, I would retreat to my bed in order to work. But I never seem to get anything done. And this may be because our brains associate being in our beds and laying under all those comfortable blankets with sleeping and relaxation instead of doing work, which explains why we can't get any homework done. In addition, over time, you might start associating your bed with staying up all night and doing work, which could ruin your sleep as well. So to avoid this vicious cycle, it's best to have designated environments that we're going to associate with sleeping or studying to help us sleep better and study better. In addition, placebos utilize the expectation of the patient. When this patient expects that they will heal, many processes then go on in their bodies to meet those expectations. So in a way, our expectations do somewhat influence the outcome. I tried this out, and the next time I took a Latin quiz, instead of feeling confused, irritated, frustrated at the 10 billion declensions and conjugations that existed within the language, I tried to be positive, telling myself that I would at least finish the entire quiz, and that if I did, I could improve my grade. By doing so, I had less stomach pain, headaches, brain fog, seizures, I don't know, and then I was actually able to improve my quiz grade as a result. The same goes with other subjects, big tests, presentations, concerts, athletic competitions. It's important though that our expectations are positive but still realistic, because placebos rely on a strong belief that the patient will heal, and therefore our expectations and goals should still be achievable. So while it's difficult, being positive can help us achieve better results. In addition, placebos also utilize the connection that is formed between the patient and the doctor. The stronger the connection, the easier it is for the patient to trust the doctor and therefore the treatment of the placebo. So perhaps these connections need to form between students and teachers too. It's easier for students to understand feedback and improve and accept content if there is a strong connection. The same goes with our peers. It's easier for us to appreciate what the other person is saying and actually listen to each other if there is a lot of trust involved. At last, we should all have some type of ritual in our lives. Whether it be eating that one big breakfast before game day, or having different playlists for different tasks like cleaning your room or working out or studying, Rituals can help us become more productive, and they're not difficult to build either. Simply find something symbolic, like an object, a sound, an environment, create a goal for the ritual, and add structure to the ritual and repeat to create association. So, the next time you find yourself counting sheep, just remember, it's not about the sheep themselves. It never was to begin with. They could have been frogs, cattle, math equations, Latin phrases. No, it's about the power of expectations, the strength of associations, and the comfort of rituals. Placebos teach us about the power that we have over our lives. While oftentimes it feels like we don't have direct control, we do have control over the goals, expectations, and attitudes that we do have. And if all else fails, there's always the tried and true method of pondering the mysteries of language as you drift off into the dreamland. Just wait until you stumble upon why the plural of goose is geese. Food for thought. Anyways, in the meantime, I have a Latin assignment to work on with the help of the placebos. Thank you.